Host Dr. Eleazar Ben Joseph.
And welcome back to Natural Solutions Radio, the second hour of Natural Solutions Radio, a health club for your mind and soul. It is the place where you health yourself and enlighten up at the same time. Each week I like to open our program and share some words of wisdom from two very great men. First, a quote from Albert Einstein: "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds." Next, a quote from Thomas Edison: "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, yet will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." Well, the doctor of the future is here now on this radio program. I am Dr. Eleazar Ben Joseph, a naturopath of the first order. I have life experiences that most people only see in the movies, including my own 4-hour clinical death experience and rebirth. I have an education in the alternative medicine natural health care movement that most doctors can only dream about. I have 30 years of clinical experience in the field as a working naturopath. I am here to help you to learn to health yourself and enlighten up at the same time, learning to take care of yourself by making the right choices to help prevent disease and promote health. So call into the show, participate. It's your life we talk about, and your right to do so, and you can listen live on the web, www.naturalsolutionsradio.com or www.bbsradio.com. Both of those will take you to Station 1, where we stream all over the world. Give us a call, local telephone number, 544-5876. That's 544-5876 or 544-KTSM are the call letters for News Talk 690 here in El Paso, Texas. And 1-800-706-0450. That's 1-800-706-0450. Now, before I go to the calls, I've had a couple of requests to go over it. Last week I was talking about it, and I had only just hit on it for a moment. So I want to spend, if you don't mind, please hold on. And I want to spend a number of minutes. I want to talk about the power of the mind and the power and what happens in the mind. You know, every human on the planet has to deal with three things. Every human on the planet deals with three things. They deal with their physical body, and they deal with it as a machine. How does my body get me around? Is it a comfortable place to live? How they relate on a mental, emotional level to their bodies. So it's every human. They have to look at their body, and they end up experiencing what's going on in their body just like any machine. Are they keeping the machine healthy? Are they doing what it needs to be done to keep the machine going and being a comfortable place to live? Because it's the spirit that lives in that body. The second thing every single person has to deal with is how they think, how they process information, how they come to a rational conclusion about any issue. How do they process information? And then the third thing that they have to understand is how do they deal with their emotions? Their emotions are extremely powerful things. They can rule us or we can rule them. And every human has to look at each of the emotions that they experience and see, do those emotions rule their lives or not? Now, here is what happens. This is the reason I am explaining it to you. This is what I want you to understand when you experience intense emotions. And the intensity is what drives the issue. The intensity is what drives the chemical compounds in the brain and in the body. So here's what happens. And it does not matter what you experience. Is it anger, rage? Is it resentment? Is it depression? Is it happiness? Is it joy? It does not matter what you experience, but at the intensity of the experience in the hypothalamus in the brain, you produce chemical peptides. These are small protein chemicals that are like a lock and a key. These are like the key. And those chemicals are produced for that emotion and then go into the bloodstream. Those peptides carry the memory of the emotion, the actual experience of the emotion. They go into your bloodstream. And what happens is that they then go to the cells of your body. And on the cells of your body, every cell in your body has receptor sites. And these are the locks that keys have to fit into. Now, you can have vitamins, minerals, you can have enzymes, you can have all neurotransmitters. There's all kinds of things that attach to the cells, and they attach through these receptor sites. So here comes these keys of the negative emotions, or again, the emotion, the rage or the anger of whatever it is you're experiencing, or the fear or the depression. And those little keys are then sent out into the body. And when they get to the cells, they look for the lock so that they can then plug the key into the lock. And then those peptides go inside your cells. These little chemical proteins go inside the cells, and they begin to change the cells. They carry the memory of the emotion, and every cell of your body has its own individuality. It thinks and it processes information. It does all of the things that we do on a macro level. It eats, and then after it eats, it pees and it poops and it sweats on a cellular level. And it experiences the emotions on a cellular level. So what happens now that this key is inside the cell, it's the memory of that emotion. Then what happens is, as the cell divides, it produces more of the receptor sites for that particular emotion. So each time you experience that emotion, you reinforce the cell by producing more of those peptides, which go to the body through the bloodstream and into the cells. And so each time the cell divides, it produces more and more receptor sites for those little peptides, until finally the cells stop producing receptor sites for vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and the things that promote health. So what happens as the cell keeps dividing and dividing, and more of those receptor sites are made for that emotion, for that particular intensity of emotion, then finally the cell dies. So you become what you experience emotionally. So when you do not have control of your emotions, you are addicted to those peptides. Let me say it again. When you do not control your own emotions, it is because you are addicted to the very peptides that cause that memory of the emotion. So this is the reason you have to work at experiencing the opposite. So when you're feeling rage or fear or anger or whatever, it takes mental effort and work to experience the opposite emotion, so that you then flood your body with positive, uplifting emotions. So this is how the body works. This is how that emotional cycle works on a peptide level. Now, I said that every human has to think. They have to process information, and there's an emotional cycle that occurs with every human, and we call it the yo-yo cycle, the emotional yo-yo cycle. And it happens, and it starts either in your mind through your brain, and you're able to process information, and you're able to think properly and use your mind to do an analysis of whatever issue, or you're going to use your emotions and you're going to drive the emotional constitution in your body. It starts with grief in the throat. Every human experiences grief. Now, that grief is usually considered very negative. Oh, you're just grieving. It is not, because what happens, every human on the planet, when they're overwhelmed by grief, will go within and look up and say, oh, help me, someone, Lord, please help me, God, help me. Every single person, when they're overwhelmed by grief, will turn within and go up and ask for help from a greater source. But the law of physics, because grief is the loss of something. Grief is always the loss of something, something you believed in or something you owned or something you had. It doesn't matter. It could be a mate. It could be a pet. It could be anything that you lost, and you experience that grief. You either go within and realize you're a complete person without that grief, or you have to fill that empty space with something. And what happens, the next emotional cycle is in the chest, and it is desire. So once you've created that empty space, then you want to fill it up, and so you create a desire, and that desire for something. And it might be you got to have a boom box. You can't live without one of those music boom boxes to walk on your shoulder. So the moment you know what the desire is, then it drops to the next section, which is in the liver and the gallbladder, and that has to do with pain about not having this desire. You then feel frustrated about not having the desire, and then you get angry. And anger will either produce a heart attack or an ulcer and you die, or you will go out and work for whatever it is that you want. Once you work and you get enough money, you drop to the next center, that's in the generative organs, and you go to the store with your money and you buy your boom box. And this boom box now is yours, and the next center is attachment. You become attached to whatever it is you just got. And the more attached you become to it, you drop to the last center, which is the colon and the tailbone, and you become afraid of whatever it is that you lose, that you might lose whatever it is that you just got. So there is a cycle of emotions. It starts at the throat from grief and emptiness. You then create a desire from the chest. And every human, when you remember when you go window shopping and you go, oh, I wish I had one of those. And you have a sigh. Okay, then you drop to the solar plexus and you're angry about not getting it. So you either steal it or work for it, or you die because you don't have it. And then you get attached to whatever it is that you just got, and then you become afraid of losing whatever it is. Now the cycle goes the other way. You can actually reverse the cycle. You can go through training and realize that even without this item, that you are still a complete human being. And you go to counseling and you go to yoga classes and meditation classes and you talk with your rabbi and your priest and whatever, and you learn that you're still a complete being without this thing. Now the intensity of fear dissipates. So you move upward again in this cycle. Now you go to the attachment. Well, obviously the attachment to this is less. You move up again, and now the anger or pain about not having this or being without it is lessened. You go up again to the chest again and the lung, and the desire for that is less. And now you go back up into the throat and you experience grief again, and you go, oh my God, if it's not this stereo boombox, then what is it? And you create another desire, and you spend your entire life going from one desire after the next, and they're always external, until at some point in your life you will move through the grief, the emptiness, and realize you are a spiritual being in a spiritual universe, and you will recognize that you are complete. And from that moment on, the external desires fall away, and you begin to have your own contentment from within because of the way you feel. But it's all chemical. It's all these peptides that are produced in the hypothalamus of the brain that then trains your cells to produce more receptors for those negative emotions, and you get locked into it. And this is the reason that it takes effort to get out of that. It takes effort to be able to walk a spiritual path on a conscious level. So I wanted to give that information. As soon as we get back, we'll go back to the phones and I'll answer all your questions. But I wanted you to understand how this cycle of emotions work. And again, if you do not control your emotions, you are addicted to those chemical peptides.